Welcome, and thank you for joining Sport NI on the Safeguarding Children and Young People in Sport virtual learning experience. This section of the learning is to explain the process and clarify a few points like the structure, the learning outcomes, and to start you thinking and reflecting on the positive role you can have on a young person's development and enjoyment of sport. The course will be a mixture of presentation and small group exercises with key support material provided, like the course handbook that was sent to you already once you registered for the course. We need you to think in terms of safeguarding children rather than just child protection. Safeguarding is doing everything possible to minimise the risk of harm to children and young people, not just waiting passively to respond to a child protection crisis if it occurs in your club. One of the core reasons for asking all coaches and volunteers and officials to attend a safeguarding workshop is to encourage organisations to simply put some structure around what you may already have in place in your club as just common sense, or to assist you in reviewing your structure and procedures. We want to focus on what you can do to ensure the club environment you work in is fun and safe for the young people, and that any young person in your club has someone within the club or sport to turn to if they have a worry or concern. A virtual classroom needs a slightly different approach to learning, so please remember to use the chat function if you have a question. Always mute your microphone when you are not speaking. Ensure everyone has a chance to contribute when you're within breakout rooms for discussions, and remember to appoint one of your group to feedback to the main group. Firstly, the pre-learning should take you about 25 minutes in total to listen to this presentation, an introduction to safeguarding, and understand the information on how Zoom learning works, which you will have received with the workshop registration information. You will also have been sent a link to the Safeguarding Children and Young People resource, which we would encourage you to review in advance. The actual virtual classroom will cover the majority of the content of the face-to-face course, including discussions, questions, and feedback from yourselves as participants. We will have more emphasis and exercises on poor practice issues, as these will be more likely the issues you come up against, but we will also look at best practice in how you should respond to a concern about child abuse, should you need to. After the virtual classroom, we would also strongly encourage all attendees to view your own governing body policies on their website. You will be asked for your post-learning feedback, and your certificate of attendance will be issued by Sport NI following the workshop. By the end of the virtual learning workshop, participants will be able to understand the potential importance of your role in the lives of children and young people and what you can do to safeguard them. We will be looking at how you can be that listening ear or good adult in a child's life and a role model by your attitude. Identify best practice procedures and behaviour to safeguard children and young people in sport. We will take time to look at some issues, specifically like transport and photography, for example. Recognise and respond if abuse or poor practice is suspected. As we have said already, the majority of safeguarding issues you will deal with in most clubs will be at a poor practice threshold, but it is essential you are clear on how you should respond to these if you do have a child abuse concern. And finally, to help ensure young people do enjoy their time in your club and that you are happy to continue giving your time to support youth sport, it is essential that you leave the virtual learning workshop informed but not anxious. With all Sport NI workshops, you will understand the need for a learning agreement. Most of the points on the slide are self-explanatory, but a couple of points to draw your attention to in particular are: when we say child welfare is paramount, we simply mean that all the decisions taken are in the best interests of the child. When we talk about care for yourself, we are acknowledging that safeguarding training can arouse uncomfortable feelings for some participants, given the sensitive nature of the topic. And this is just an emotional health warning to remind people that we may be talking about examples that could be upsetting. So as adults, if you find the material too challenging or upsetting, please take some time away from the course to look after yourself, or contact one of the support agencies identified in the resource booklet. We are sure you will all recognise the experiences of others in the training and knowledge they may bring to your discussions, so please continue to be respectful and value others' contributions during the learning. This workshop is based on a few principles. Firstly, that children have the right to have fun and be safe in their activities. Our priority is to see young people enjoy sport and stay involved for life, develop good friendships, and be exposed to positive role models. The next principle is that safeguarding is simply about best practice and what is common sense. You will hear the tutor talking about this term common sense throughout the learning, emphasising that safeguarding practice is just about putting some structure to what the majority of people or a reasonable person would think is the right thing to do. And the last principle is that sports activities are uniquely placed to contribute to safeguarding and the welfare of children, for coaches and volunteers like yourself to be that listening ear or trusted adult. We need you to work within your club to create a culture where children will be listened to and their views sought, showing how sport can help build resilience through helping children deal with stress. But we need to also realise that sport can still provide easy access to someone who wants to harm children. Even with all the good practice now in place, in many clubs, some people will still try and push boundaries to test how far they can go to undermine safeguarding and target children for abuse. Those who may want to harm children may work to isolate them by breaching the rules the sport has on transport or supervision, or by creating a dependency and exploiting the power imbalance between coach and child. We would ask you now to take a few seconds to reflect on one positive personal memory you had as a young person involved in sport, either in a club, school, or even with your family or friends. We would ask you to think about what made that event a positive experience. Please take the next few seconds of silence to consider what sort of thing made playing sport more enjoyable when you were a child. So, having thought about your own positive experience of sport, we would ask you to consider, what does your club do to help keep young people enjoying sport? When we have previously asked people what sort of things kept them involved in sport as children, the most common responses were just having fun and time with friends, learning new skills and being active, making new friends, competition and being good at something, winning medals, opportunity to travel to see new places, parents' encouragement and interest. As coaches and volunteers, your style of communication with children and understanding of what they enjoy is key to keeping them involved. We all know that sport can provide a sense of belonging, and being part of a team can help develop self-confidence and self-belief in young athletes. This sense of belonging to something in your community is a positive experience that can build a child's confidence. Some of you may have already seen this Adverse Childhood Experiences logo in your work or other voluntary settings you're involved in. Raising awareness of adverse childhood experiences, or ACEs as they are known, is to encourage people like yourselves who are working with young people to understand that you could be the change in that young person's life, just by being that trusted adult with a listening ear and genuine concern for them. By identifying these 9 ACEs, which are based on research into trauma, the Safeguarding Board for Northern Ireland aim to make more people aware of the profound impact these traumas can have on a child or young person's neurological and physical development. To engage children and help us understand their behaviour or responses to situations, we need to understand what they have possibly experienced. We're not asking coaches to be counsellors or therapists, just good human beings, willing and wanting to get the best out of the child in front of them and offer that child the best experience they can have. Understanding trauma and its impact on developmental processes can help us all to respond more effectively to a child who may need support. It is important to think about ACEs in a way that does not simply pathologise individuals. For example, just assuming a child will follow a path because of their negative life experiences or their behaviour in response to the experiences. We need to look at what clubs and good coaches or volunteers can do to reduce the impact of any of these traumas on the individual child. By reducing the impact of the ACEs, we have real potential to benefit not only those children affected, but also future generations. ACEs work is based on research that looked at the protective and risk factors of resilience. Resilience can be defined as the capacity to anticipate risk, limit effects, and recover rapidly through survival, adaptability, evolution, and growth in the face of turbulent change and stress. This short animated clip is about how a child's brain develops and the importance of a sturdy foundation, which could be the club or volunteers like you helping the child build up their resilience. Though the clip focuses on a younger child, the significance of having at least one good role model in a child's life remains the same.
Science tells us that the experiences we have in the first years of our lives actually affect the physical architecture of the developing brain. This means that brains aren't just born, they're also built over time based on our experiences. Just as a house needs a sturdy foundation to support the walls and roof, a brain needs a good base to support all future development. Positive interactions between young children and their caregivers literally build the architecture of the developing brain. Building a sturdy foundation in the earliest years provides a good base for a lifetime of good mental function and better overall health. So just how is a solid brain foundation built and maintained in a developing child? One way is through what brain experts call serve and return interactions. Imagine a tennis match between a caregiver and a child, but instead of hitting a ball back and forth across a net, various forms of communication pass between the two, from eye contact to touch, from singing to simple games like peekaboo. These interactions, repeated throughout a young person's developing years, are the bricks that build a healthy foundation for all future development. But another kind of childhood experience shapes brain development too, and that's stress. Good kinds of stress, like meeting new people or studying for a test, are healthy for development because they prepare kids to cope with future challenges. Another kind of stress, called toxic stress, is bad for brain development. If a child is exposed to serious ongoing hardships like abuse and neglect, and he has no other caregiver in his life to provide support, the basic structures of his developing brain may be damaged. Without a sturdy foundation to properly support future development, he is at risk for a lifetime of health problems, development issues, even addiction. It's possible to fix some of the damage of toxic stress later on, but it's easier, more effective, and less expensive to build solid brain architecture in the first place. One of the things building sturdy brain architecture supports is the development of basic emotional and social skills, an important group of skills which scientists call executive function and self-regulation, can be thought of like air traffic control in the child's mental airspace. Think of a young child's brain as the control tower at a busy airport, all those planes landing and taking off, and all of the support systems on the ground simultaneously demand the controller's attention to avoid a crash. It's the same with a young child learning to pay attention, plan ahead, and remember and follow lots of rules. Like all of us, kids have to react to things happening in the world around them, while also dealing with worries, temptations, and obligations on their mind. As these demands for attention pile up, air traffic control helps a child regulate the flow of information, prioritize tasks, and above all, find ways to manage stress and avoid mental collisions along the way. Having this ability is a necessity for positive and level mental health. Developing effective air traffic control, overcoming toxic stress, and building solid brain architecture are things kids can't do on their own. And since strong societies are made up of healthy, contributing individuals, it's up to us as a community to make sure all young people have the kinds of nurturing experiences they need for positive development. To build better futures, we need to build better brains.
So when we look at what sports clubs can do to mitigate ACEs, we need to consider all the positive things that sport can deliver naturally through its activities and sense of belonging to something bigger than yourself. Sport can be part of a child's building blocks to resilience. The coach-child interaction in building a positive coaching relationship can help to build a sturdy foundation. Sport can help with the development of basic social skills as part of a child's own self-regulation. Reframing how we maybe talk to children, for example, if we are worried that a child may be upset, asking questions like, "What happened to you?" instead of, "What's wrong with you?" which is already negative and placing a sense of blame on the child. One or more stable caring child-adult relationship. Helping one person might not change the world, but it might change the world for that one child. It's about small steps. The positive ripple effect of having a positive coaching style that builds up a trusting level of communication cannot be underestimated. Resilience factors, such as a consistent person caring for a child's best interests, can help individuals overcome hardship. Helping young people understand they are supported to overcome hardship. Looking at people in a trauma-informed way, which means understanding how events could impact on a person, helps us to feel more compassion and empathy for the individual. It helps us to be more patient, more likely to connect with them, and it can guide our interactions. There is strong evidence that indicates that feeling close to and valued by other people as part of a team, for example, is a fundamental human need and one that contributes to functioning well in the world. Managing challenges and setting a coaching program with achievable goals and expectations, a positive culture in the club of being interested in the whole player, can help young people know they have supportive adults around them. Equip young people to manage their behaviour and emotions. As a means of managing their emotions, children need to be able to problem solve, breaking down an issue into manageable chunks, dealing with one part of the problem at a time, particularly if they feel very overwhelmed by a situation or event. Sports clubs can help a young person respond to problems or defeats and look at what they can control to change the situation. Managing emotions or behaviour. Rules, boundaries, how feedback is managed, teamwork, having young people involved in developing a code of conduct can all help a young person understand the cultural norms and boundaries around behaviour. Being involved and connected in something they enjoy. Resilience is also associated with a sense of being involved and connected. Social relationships and being a member of a team or involved in a squad are critical for promoting well-being and can act as a buffer against mental health for people of all ages. We will look at sport and mental health in more detail in the virtual workshop. Social relationships and being a member of a team or involved in a squad are critical for promoting well-being and can act as a buffer against mental ill health for people of all ages. We will look at sport and mental health in more detail in the virtual workshop. A sense of being involved and connected is important for children who may have experienced adverse childhood experiences. It is also important for yourselves as coaches or volunteers regarding our own emotional health and well-being. Being involved and connected, public speaking, having a voice, addressing inclusion, hosting a young person's forum, team building through activities, all of these can be an outlet for stress in a young person's life. We all know that sport can have a positive impact on a person's mental health. Unfortunately, we also know the harsh reality that many of our citizens, children and adults are struggling with mental health difficulties, and sadly many have died through suicide. In the virtual workshop, we will consider the role of sport in supporting positive mental health. But it is also essential that we reflect on the importance of a suicide prevention care pathway. The Public Health Agency's Suicide Prevention Care Pathway advises that if suicide affects your club, you should not make a big event around the death, but acknowledge the pain and hurt. Make contact with your local health and social care trust lead person for support and advice. Work quietly in the background. What you can do is arrange for your local health and social care trust lead to come out and speak with the leaders in the club. Provide signposting information for counselling and support through Childline or Lifeline. For adolescent and younger members, you can encourage young people to get together and offer peer support. Involve the parents at the club. Work with the local schools to ensure those in need are getting the correct support. Promote Childline as someone independent for the young person to turn to. When we talk about finding support, we would direct people to Lifeline, which is the Northern Ireland Crisis Response Helpline service for people who are experiencing distress or despair. They also provide a check-in service, for example, over weekend periods. The Samaritans are also available 24 hours per day for anyone struggling to cope, and their helpline is also free. In crisis, you can go to or contact the emergency department of your nearest hospital. You can also contact the emergency services if someone is in immediate danger by calling 999 or 112. You can contact a local GP or GP out of hours service. They can provide information about the support available in your area. The key message is, if you are concerned about a person and worry they may harm themselves, then please ask them directly if they are considering suicide. The direct question can save lives. Before we conclude, we want to play another short video and outline the key themes we will address in the virtual workshop. These themes will include good practice, which will include some exercises in the virtual breakout rooms and voting for your responses to scenarios. Mental health and encouraging clubs to support the Take 5 campaign to care for your mental health. Communicating with young people and their parents, looking at the challenges and benefits in communicating with others. The 4 R's of recognise, respond, record and refer. So helping you recognise what is abusive, and we will use other scenarios to consider how to respond to a concern, what to record, and how then when to refer on. This clip should help you reflect back on what makes a good communicator by showing you care to help children open up by being compassionate, understanding and reassuring them, taking your time, slowing down and letting them go at their own pace, showing you understand and reflecting back to make it clear you're interested in what the child is telling you.
It's never easy when a young person discloses abuse. There are probably 1,000 things going through your head, from trying to remember your organisation's safeguarding procedure, to asking the right questions, should you be asking questions at all. But no matter how anxious you're feeling, it's worth remembering that most young people only choose to talk to someone they really trust. So chances are you're already doing something right. Whatever the situation, here are a few simple things you can do to create a safe space for a better conversation. Help them open up. For some children, talking about abuse can be scary. You need to show them that you care and that you are listening to what they say. This can be as simple as changing your body language, and avoid anything that can make you seem distracted or distant. Keep your focus on them. They're the most important thing right now. Slow down and take your time. This chat might only be a small part of the disclosure. They could just be testing the water, so let them go at their own pace. Even if the gaps in the conversation feel awkward to you, it's their story. Give them time to tell it. Reflect back and show you understand by simply going through what they've told you already. If possible, use their language. The specific words they use are an important part of their narrative. And although it's easy to jump to conclusions, or even solutions, right now they just need to feel listened to. You can practice these techniques whenever someone's telling you a story, helping them to open up, slowing things down, and reflecting back in everyday conversations won't just make you a better listener, but will also prepare you for when a disclosure does happen. It could change a young person's life.
Throughout the virtual workshop, we will be asking you to consider how your behaviour can impact on the children you work with in sport. So before joining the virtual learning course, please consider, what will your legacy in sport be? What will young people say about your coaching methods in years to come? Could you be that one good adult in a child's life? And would a young person be able to turn to you for help? Thank you for listening, and we hope you benefit from the virtual learning.